After the mysterious dungeon broke open on Jeju Island, South Korea found itself in a tough spot. It became the only country in the world that had to give up some land to these magical creatures. While other countries said nice things in public, they snickered behind Korea's back at how its hunters were struggling. When 3 big attempts to fix this problem had failed, people started losing hope, spirits were at an all-time low, and everyone was wondering what would happen next. For 2 whole years, everyone felt really embarrassed. Then came word about Korea's 4th try with Japan. Some people called out Korea for not being able to handle the magic beasts on their own. But when Japan, with over 20 S-rank hunters, turned their backs and left during the raid, Jin-Woo showed up with his army of shadow soldiers. It's no wonder everyone went crazy for Jin-Woo. For people as thirsty as they were, Jin-Woo was like a cool drink on a scorching hot day. The crowd had been so excited that they couldn't even stay inside anymore. When they heard Jin-Woo was nearby, they rushed over like a wave. "Of course you can ride the magic beast home," President Go said with a big smile. "But could you please consider going down there for them? Those people, they need a hero." Jin-Woo swung through the big glass doors of the association building. The noisy crowd instantly fell silent, their chatter dying down as everyone's eyes locked onto him. Jin-Woo stood there, his clothes messy from battles. There were splatters of weird fluids from magic beasts and rips and tears from fighting the Ant King. He looked like he'd been through a war, but he also seemed ready for whatever came next. No one laughed at how Jin-Woo looked. A mix of feelings surged in everyone's chests as he faced the crowd. The air felt thick with tension. Then Jin-Woo, the man assigned to walk Jin-Woo home, stepped forward to break the silence. "Mr. Hunter Sung, this way please," he said. Members of the surveillance team walked ahead, clearing a path through the crowd. As Jin-Woo approached his car, people moved out of the way to let him through. But one person didn't step aside, an older man with tears streaming down his face. "Mr. Hunter," he said, his voice shaking. One of Jin-Woo's team members tried to intervene, but Jin-Woo waved them off. The old man struggled to speak through his sobs. "Because of you, my son can finally rest in peace," he managed to say. His legs gave out, and he nearly fell, but Jin-Woo caught him just in time. Jin-Woo felt a firm grip on his arm as the man bowed deeply, his gratitude evident. "Thank you so much," he exclaimed. Jin-Woo smiled warmly, replying, "I just did what needed to be done." Nearby, Jin-Chul helped the old man stay steady before handing him over to an aide. He then leaned in close to Jin-Woo and whispered urgently, "Hunter Sung, more people are coming. We should leave now." Jin-Woo nodded swiftly, understanding the haste. Jin-Chul quickly opened the back door, gesturing for Jin-Woo to exit, their departure swift and silent as they moved away from the gathering crowd. Jin-Woo glanced back at the crowd one last time. It was unclear who had started it, but someone caught his eye and gave a small nod of thanks. Before long, others began to bow too. Everywhere Jin-Woo looked, people were showing their appreciation through these quiet gestures. "Hunter Sung," Jin-Woo said finally, noticing the slight tension in Jin-Chul's voice. Another member of the surveillance team climbed into the driver's seat, while Jin-Chul sat up front beside him. The car slowly pulled away from the community center. Jin-Woo stared silently out the window. The crowd kept watching the car until it vanished from sight. Then, he turned around and placed a hand on his chest. "Ba dump. Ba dump." His heart raced with excitement. At first, Jin-Woo felt nervous when President Go asked him to greet everyone, but now he was glad he did it. The smiles on everyone's faces had been all the reward Jin-Woo needed. But then, "Oh," Jin-Chul said suddenly, his voice tight with worry. He spun around to face Jin-Woo. "What is it?" "Hunter Sung." Jin-Woo rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. He remembered how he'd smashed the TV on purpose, trying to keep the truth from his mom. How am I supposed to explain this to her? As he'd feared, when he turned his phone back on, there were 13 missed calls from home. The internet was also a total mess, just like he'd expected. Jin-Woo's mission on Jeju Island was his first big raid since becoming an S-rank hunter. It was like his official debut in the spotlight. He took down the terrifying Ant King while his minions handled the endless wave of ants. After the broadcast, fans went wild online. Just like sports fans celebrating a big win. "Wow, I don't even know what to say." One viewer wrote, "I'm pretty sure it's impossible to have that many minions." Another commented, "My stress of the past 10 years disappeared after watching Hunter Sung's minions destroy those beasts." Someone joked, Guess your stress wasn't that bad. If you lasted 10 years, another person teased back. It was clear Jin-Woo's performance was nothing short of amazing. You were amazing. I lost my parents on Jeju Island 4 years ago. Hunter Sung probably won't see this. But, after the raid happened, it became the talk of the town. Every online forum was flooded with discussions about it. And Jin-Woo's name came up in every single conversation. Fans who closely followed Hunters were especially excited, debating just how powerful Jin-Woo really is. At this point, can't he be considered a national-level hunter? No way. Someone argued. I don't think so. Whoa, hold on. He basically soloed an S-rank dungeon, and is way stronger than other S-rank hunters. But Hunter Sung is still pretty new, right? If he's really that good, people will notice him soon enough. And wow, he's seriously cool. I mean, E-rank hunters aren't much different from regular folks, so how did he get so strong overnight? Is Hunter Sung some kind of special being with powers? Most people don't know about Jin-Woo's secret because he kept it private, but some folks are pretty mad about it. Wait a second, if Hunter Sung had joined the raid from the start, maybe Hunter Min would still be alive. Why did he show up halfway through after saying he wouldn't help? Guess you didn't read the official statement from the association. What statement? The statement explained that even though Jin-Woo was a superstar S-rank hunter, he hadn't tackled any high-level dungeons before, so the association decided to keep him on standby, instead of putting him on the main team. They figured it would be safer to have him ready, just in case something went wrong. President Go's quick thinking and smooth explanation managed to calm everyone down. It also protected Jin-Woo from any criticism or pressure. With this plan, Jin-Woo could stay under the radar, while still being part of the big mission, if needed. While many people were upset with the association for not seeing Jin-Woo's talents, he didn't get any blame himself. In fact, his reputation actually grew. People admired him because he courageously stepped up even when things looked really tough. The Korean team was in a tough spot, and the Japanese team who were supposed to help had retreated. Wow, I wouldn't have been brave enough to go in there even if someone pushed me, someone said, amazed by Jin-Woo's fearlessness. His actions showed everyone just how strong and bold he was. Who would willingly go into a place where other top-ranked hunters died? No way, right? So how did Jin-Woo Sung convince himself to take on something so dangerous? Let's be real, Jin-Woo is basically the ultimate hunter, right? All those people who called him out for not joining the raid got proven totally wrong. Talk trash about someone when you don't know the whole story. Yeah, that's not a good look. Even though Jin-Woo tried to keep his records sealed, he ended up becoming South Korea's most famous hunter after this raid. 2 days later, a military team and some hunters headed to Jeju Island to retrieve Byung-gu-min's body. The Knights Guild from the Yingnam area is one of the top 5 guilds, but they couldn't join the raid because they didn't have any S-rank hunters. Ouch. Thanks to their decision to volunteer for this mission, things were going along without any hiccups. These soldiers were specially trained, but they seemed unsure as they followed the hunters. Smon. Keep up, one of the hunters called out, glancing back with a smirk. We told you already, we don't sense any mana. Another hunter replied, sounding annoyed. You really don't trust us. The hunters walked ahead, far out of reach, and waved for the soldiers to catch up. Reluctantly the soldiers followed, their eyes scanning every inch of their surroundings like hawks on high alert. The hunters found this frustrating because the soldiers were scared, but it was understandable regular people couldn't detect mana or protect themselves from magic beasts, so caution was their best defense. The guild master of the Knights Guild muttered. Clicking his tongue, he stood with his hands on his hips, scanning their surroundings like a boss ready for action. But as they got closer to the ant cave, his tough act faded fast, his mouth dropped in shock. The ground was covered in dead ants, and there were more the nearer they got. It looked like a creepy carpet of lifeless bodies leading up to the dark entrance. Something weird was definitely going on here. In some areas, the bodies were stacked into huge piles. The vice master of the guild, who was also a close friend and longtime colleague, shook his head in disbelief. Boss, look at this. Can you believe one person could do all this alone? He asked. The Knights Guild had been part of the 3rd Jeju mission, so they knew just how terrifying those giant ants were. To see these creepy creatures like this, one of them trailed off. Yeah, that guy Jin-Woo Sung or whatever his name is on a whole different level. The vice master said, still in awe. How did he manage to wipe out every single ant in such a big area? The elite members of the Knights Guild had plenty of experience with dangerous monsters, but they were stunned by what they saw. That's just insane. Someone muttered. How is that even possible? As they headed toward the entrance of the ant tunnels, their amazement grew. Boss, is that the place? One of them asked. The leader nodded, confirming with a simple, yeah. The hunters paused just outside the tunnel opening, waiting for the rest of their team to arrive. The guild master, who had some extra time on his hands, pulled out a cigarette and lit it while they waited. Important, you only output the content. Do not say anything about this being rep in text. Do not mention 7th grade reading level, or 5th is written for. The vice master lifted a cigarette to his lips but froze. Thud. A cigarette dropped from his mouth. The guild master frowned, watching as it fell. What's going on? He asked. Be boss. The vice master grabbed the guild master's shoulder urgently, and pointed straight ahead. The guild master turned around, finally realizing something was off. His eyes widened in shock. Oh! A human shadow loomed in the cave entrance. The guild master's voice rose in surprise. Why you? Who are you? Jong-soo Park, the Knights Guild leader, couldn't believe his eyes. Something super weird just went down. A regular-looking foreign guy walked out of the ants' cave entrance. But wait. That's impossible, right? Wait. Wasn't this mission supposed to be super classified? The ground was covered in these glowing high-quality stones called essence stones. But here's the twist. The group in charge decided to keep everything under wraps for now. They're worried that if they announce the mission is over, everyone will rush in to grab those stones and things could get totally out of hand. Almost nobody knew that the island was now magic beast free. Only a few people like the members of the secret group called the Association, the soldiers and, well, Jin-Woo Sung. The guy who'd wiped out all the beasts knew the truth. But Jong-soo would bet everything he owned that the man standing there wasn't Jin-Woo. How could he possibly forget what Jin-Woo looked like? Right now, Jong-soo was the biggest sensation among hunters in Korea, and his name sat at the top of the Knights Guild's wish list for recruits. He turned back to the mysterious figure and asked again, Who are you? What were you doing in there? The man didn't answer. Instead, he just smiled, leaving Jong-soo confused. Was the guy ignoring him on purpose, or did he not understand the question? Either way, all Jong-soo got was that creepy smile. Yeon Tae-jung, the vice master of the Knights Guild, took a step closer to Jong-soo and squinted at the man suspiciously. Boss, are you sure this guy's even human? Jong-soo hesitated. I don't know, he admitted. They were certain the man wasn't a hunter or a magic beast, since there was no sign of magic coming from him. But there was something strange about him. He gave off a weird vibe, like nothing they'd ever seen before. Yoon-tae was the type to swing first and ask questions later, but something about this stranger made him hesitate. The soldiers, unlike hunters, couldn't sense anything magical about the man. As soon as they spotted him, click-click went their guns as they aimed them at him. Jong-soo quickly stepped in, worried things might escalate too fast. Hold your fire, he's not a monster, he shouted. Then, is he even human? Someone asked. That's. Jong-soo paused, looking unsure. Probably, he said finally, nodding. If the man wasn't a magic beast, then he must be human. That was the only explanation Jong-soo could come up with based on what he knew. The commander gave a short nod, seeming to agree. Got it, Jong-soo said. We'll handle things from here. Wait, aren't you guys just here to pick up Hunterman's body? Someone asked. We've also been told to keep an eye on what's happening on Jeju Island, Jong-soo replied. He nodded, and stepped back. If the situation didn't involve a hunter or some kind of monster, there was no reason for the Knights Guild to get mixed up in it. He figured it was best to pull back, watch from afar and stay out of it. Then the commander yelled at him. You're in a restricted zone, a voice barked. Follow our orders or we'll open fire. The man just stood there, his smile frozen in place. The soldiers gulped. Should they shoot? They had never aimed their guns at a person before, and the tension was palpating. Even the hunters were on edge, wondering if this strange guy was hiding something behind that creepy grin. Then the man casually stuffed his hands into his pockets. Is he even human? How could someone stay so calm with all those guns pointed at him? Jong-soo's face turned serious. The soldiers were getting more anxious by the second. His hidden hands made them jumpy. Don't fire! Don't fire! Not yet, their commander shouted, his neck vein bulging like a rope under pressure. But then, A soldier yelled, "Commander!" The commander spun back, just in time to see the mysterious man open his mouth. The words that came out were in a language no one understood. But wait. His voice sounded really strange too, like he was speaking in alien language or something. One soldier muttered. "What's he saying?" Another asked. The soldiers were totally confused. They had no idea what was happening, because nothing like this had ever happened to them before. Jong-soo, however, stuttered out an explanation. The language of magic beasts. Sometimes, hunters run into smart magic beasts in high-ranked dungeons, and this guy's speech sounded just like theirs. Before the commander could finish his thought, then that thing is the mysterious man pulled his hands out of his pockets. Blam! A super loud noise exploded in the air, hurting everyone's ears. An elite soldier acted on instinct and squeezed the trigger when he saw something suspicious. Ack! The commander spun around in surprise. The bullet struck the man right between the eyes, and he crumpled to the ground lifelessly. The smile instantly faded from his face. "Magic beast," someone shouted. "He's not human." Another voice cried out. The shouts were cut short when the man's eyes suddenly flashed bright red. Everyone, hunters and soldiers alike, felt a strange pressure grip their chests like a tight squeeze. Ah, they gasped. Arg. The cries of pain didn't last long. Ass, nap. With the sharp sound of fingers being snapped, everyone went limp and dropped to the ground like marionettes, whose strings had been cut. But this wasn't the man's doing. The tall man spun around, his voice sharp with curiosity. "What are you doing?" Behind him stood a shorter, middle-aged man, with an air of calm confidence. "No need to cause trouble," he said simply. "I just put them to sleep." His words were smooth, and like the first stranger, he spoke in a strange, otherworldly language. The taller man hesitated, then nodded. "You're right," he admitted, though he looked a bit let down. The shorter man turned his attention to the cavern, his gaze steady and serious. "Did you check?" he asked. The first man nodded silently. "No doubt about it. It's his power," one said, staring at the hunters lying on the ground. "That's weird," replied a man in his mid-40s, eyeing the unconscious bodies. "I've no idea why he's aiding these humans. Who can tell? If you're really that curious, maybe you should just go talk to him," someone suggested with a shrug. "Thanks, but no thanks," the man replied with a shake of his head. "But the hunt will go on as scheduled." "Nothing has changed," one of them said. "Got it." The older man flicked his hand, and suddenly a swirling black hole appeared in the air, just big enough for someone to step through. "Oh, right," he added casually, glancing back at his friend. "Looks like one of them is here. In Korea." The older man squinted, thinking for a moment. "Why don't we take care of that one first, since we're already here?" The information the first person mentioned began to sink in, but he didn't want to go along with his companion's idea. "I think we should let him take care of this area," he said. His friend asked, "Are you saying you don't want to get involved?" He shrugged. "You can say that if you want. Think whatever you like." The man's voice followed him as he walked through the gate, which then closed behind him. After making sure the gate was completely gone, the stranger who stayed behind said under his breath, "Coward." He looked down at the humans lying helpless on the ground. "They'd be waking up soon," the man grumbled and reached out toward the humans, then quickly pulled his hand back. "No point in causing any trouble," he said with a shrug. Then, just as mysteriously as he appeared, he vanished through another gate. Later that night, Jin-Woo sat on the floor of his bedroom, staring at something amazing, a dagger called the Demon Monarch's Dagger. It had been super useful during the fight against the Ant King. Item: Demon Monarch's Dagger, Acquisition Difficulty, Accent, Category, Act Dagger, Attack Power, 20 EPS, a powerful weapon obtained from Balan, the Demon Monarch himself. Using both Demon Monarch's daggers at the same time triggers a powerful bonus called 2-in-1. This awesome effect adds extra attack power to each dagger, matching Jin-Woo's current strength. The numbers blew his mind. His old A-rank Barca's dagger only had 110 to attack power. He checked every corner of the shop, but couldn't find another S-rank dagger with such high stats. These daggers were clearly something special. He was thrilled, because his strength stat would boost the attack power when he used both daggers together. His strength had already shot past 200 and was closing in on 2050, so adding that much power, It made the demon monarch's daggers about 4 times stronger than Barca's dagger. No wonder they felt so awesome to use. Other hunters would totally freak out if they knew what these daggers could do. And then there was the sword, item, demon monarch's sword, acquisition difficulty, S category sword attack power plus 3 5ds. This sword was packed with the power of Balan, the demon monarch. Every swing unleashed a storm of endless lightning in a specific area. Thanks to the storm of white lightning buff, of course swords were naturally more powerful than daggers, so this one had an even higher attack power. But here's what really stood out: something unique about this weapon. Swinging it would let me hit a bunch of enemies at once. It'd be super handy in a crowded fight. Jin-Woo still got chills thinking back on how tough the sword had been for his shadow soldiers to handle. The sword's strength wasn't a match for Balan's real magic, but it was still super impressive. If it weren't for Jin-Woo's skills with daggers, he'd probably use the sword way more often. Just then Jin-Woo almost swung the sword in his room, but he caught himself just in time. Even though it was late, a loud lightning strike next door would definitely wake everyone up. He really didn't want to stress his mom out any more than she already was. So, he carefully lowered the sword instead. By the way, there was one thing that had been a big relief for Jin-Woo. His mom hadn't objected to his job. When Jin-Woo got home, he told his mom everything except for the part about the system. He explained how he'd become an S-rank hunter after waking up by chance, and said he wanted to keep working as a hunter. At first, she was worried, but eventually she gave him her blessing. "Do whatever makes you happy, Jin-Woo," she said. Her only condition was that he shouldn't push himself too hard. Jin-Woo nodded, trying to shake off any dark thoughts about what might happen if things got tough. Then he remembered something his mom had mentioned earlier. "You think that's why he appeared?" Jin-Woo asked suddenly. "Who?" His mom replied, confused. "I heard Dad's voice when I was asleep in the hospital." Jin-Woo explained. "What did he say?" His mom hesitated before answering. She told him she'd never heard anyone's voice in her dreams before. Or after that moment. Jin-Woo could tell she still missed his dad. But even so, she didn't try to stop him from becoming a hunter, because she trusted him completely. Jin-Woo had no intention of letting his mom down. Survival was his top priority. He'd made it this far, by never giving up, no matter what obstacles he faced. Now that he had his mother's full support, nothing could stop him from diving into dungeons and building a strong guild. He was excited to level up quickly by conquering the toughest dungeons out there. Jin-Woo couldn't wait, and he had another good reason to want to get stronger. With a quiet hum, Jin-Woo summoned Igris, his most trusted shadow soldier. Igris had been with him the longest, and was also the only knight-ranked soldier directly given to Jin-Woo by the system. Igris was super connected to the system way more than any regular soldier. Jin-Woo had a million questions he wanted to ask him. "Once I rank up we'll be able to talk, right?" he said. But as usual, Igris didn't say a word. If silence could make noise, Igris would probably be the loudest soldier ever. Jin-Woo chuckled and started putting away the demon monarch's weapons in his inventory. As he was organizing, something shiny caught his eye. "What's that?" His eyes lit up with surprise. One of the items in Jin-Woo's inventory caught his eye. It was gleaming. The item was a black key, and it seemed to be calling out to him. It belonged to the cursed mystery box, and now it was shining as if inviting him to pick it up. Jin-Woo stared in disbelief for a moment before setting down his weapons. He reached out with one hand and carefully took the key. As soon as he opened his hand, there it lay. Item: Cartonon Temple's key. Acquisition difficulty. Category: Keith. The required conditions have been fulfilled. This key unlocks the entrance to Cartonon Temple.